Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk KFYO. We go to the phones, Republican strategist Matt Mackowiak joining us today. Matt, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Chad. Good morning. How are you?
Doing great. Appreciate you taking some time this morning. I guess we'll start off with President Joe Biden. He last week, Matt, he was talking about unity, and so far after the unity speech, I don't see a lot of uniting going on in America, and I don't really see a lot of outreach from the Biden administration.
No, certainly not. Biden has had an opportunity, I think, to put his money where his mouth is on the unity piece, and there's just not a lot of evidence that that's what they're pursuing. They went really hard left on the first day with the executive orders. I think Trump had 3 or maybe 5 executive orders on the first day. I believe Biden had 17. Just today, Biden said, I saw this morning, he said he believes the Senate impeachment trial should go forward. It's not a good way to unify the country. Look, he made a deal with the left. You elect me, give me the job I've wanted for 50 years. I'm going to push your left-wing agenda. And I think he's going to be moderate legislatively, and he's going to be extreme through executive orders. And that's basically what we've seen so far, because he can't get extreme legislation through the Senate, not while the filibuster's protected, which it looks like it probably will be for the next 2 years due to Senate whatever it is, Republican leader McConnell's commitment and getting 2 Democrats to publicly comment that they won't end the filibuster. So, they're going to be limited with what they can do legislatively. I think the concern, Chad, is that they're going to have one bite at the apple on using the procedural option known as reconciliation, either later this year or maybe early next year. And it sounds like they want to combine a health care and tax bill into one bill. The reason that's important is that's a 51-vote threshold. So if all 50 Dems and the vice president vote together, Republicans can't stop that. Now, not to get too much in the weeds, but there are limits to what they can do. It has to be budget neutral over a 10-year period. It can't be just a massive, massive bill. There are other limitations to it. But you got to remember, Obamacare was done on reconciliation. Never would have happened if it required 60 votes. And the Trump tax bill was done on reconciliation through the Senate. So it's not like you can't do things, but they're not going to be able to do Medicare For All or anything crazy, but they're going to be able to probably do Medicare Plus or something like that, and then maybe repeal some of the tax cuts for the wealthy that were put into the Trump tax bill. So it's going to be interesting 2 years. I mean, if the filibuster holds, which I'm just desperately hope it does, I think most of what Biden's going to do is going to be temporary. It's going to be executive orders, which you can overturn immediately or block or defund if you have the House. And I think the real key is we got to get the House back 2 years from now, and I think we will. I think it's a 7-seat Democratic majority. We're going to gain seats due to apportionment. We're going to gain seats from legislatures redrawing their maps in states where Republicans have majorities. And historically speaking, I think only one incumbent president in the last 100 years has not lost seats in their first midterm, and that was George W. Bush in 2002 after 9/11. So it's a long answer to your question, but you're right. We're not seeing unity right now. I mean, Biden's inaugural I thought was actually pretty good, but speeches don't matter, right? Policy matters. And he's going pretty far left on the executive orders. We'll see what happens on a COVID stimulus bill or infrastructure over the next couple months, but impeachment's going to chew up 3 or 4 weeks in the Senate. That's going to prevent them from doing COVID stimulus or infrastructure or anything else.
Well, and do you think they have 17 Republicans right now who want to convict Trump?
No, and I'll give you my direct take on what I think is going to happen. So first of all, I believe Rand Paul or someone else is going to file a motion to dismiss. I may be getting the wording wrong, but they're going to basically try to dismiss the impeachment articles immediately at the very beginning on the basis that it's unconstitutional. And this may surprise you, Chad, but I'm going to make a bold prediction this morning, which I know you like. You know I'd like doing. I think every Republican senator is going to vote to dismiss. I really believe that.
Wow.
Doesn't mean Mitt Romney won't also then vote for conviction if it fails. I think he'll do that. I think Lisa Murkowski from Alaska will do that. And you might have a couple more here or there. Pat Toomey's made some noise, a few others perhaps. But you're not going to have more than, I don't think, 5 ultimately vote for conviction unless, I'll put this caveat in there, unless we learn some very troubling facts over the next 3 or 4 weeks. And I do think we have to admit that that's a possibility. If we learn that the president refused National Guard support while the insurrection was going on, it's a big if. But if we do learn that, I think that would change things. They're gonna go out, his legal team is going to try to get this thing, basically ruled unconstitutional. From what I've gathered, it looks like that's a tough path. So it sounds like they're going to do a motion to dismiss in the Senate. I don't know how that breaks down. If it's 51-50 with Harris breaking the tie, then I think it probably goes forward. So, look, it's going to take up a lot of time. It's going to be very divisive, but they're nowhere near 17 Republican votes to convict, and so it's basically a waste of floor time. And they want to take up 3 or 4 weeks and of Biden's first 100 days on something that's pointless, with the president not even in office anymore. It's silly. I'm actually surprised Pelosi transmitted the articles at all. I thought she might just hold on to them for a while.
Yeah. Let's go back to the filibuster. How confident are you? I mean, I know Leader McConnell is confident, maybe that Joe Manchin and Krista Sinema will hold to their word about not blowing up the filibuster. But how confident are you? I mean, when the president of the United States is leaning on people, that can have a lot of sway.
It can, but you got to remember that they're going to need their votes on everything, right? So if they want to go to war with those 2 Democratic senators, that's a great way to turn your majority into a minority. It's a 50-50 Senate right now, right? And you have the VP breaking the tie. So they've got to have Joe Manchin's vote on everything, and they've got to have Kristen Sinema's vote on everything. So I don't doubt that the pressure groups on the left, Brian Fallon and all these clowns, are going to be running billboards and digital ads and calls into their offices and all that kind of stuff. I don't think it's going to move them. I mean, it's funny about Manchin. I was at an off-the-record event with Senator Ted Cruz just after the election in the D.C. area, and he made the point that Joe Manchin's with you when you don't need him and not with you when you do need him. And if you look at his vote record, it's pretty true. He's never cast a meaningful vote against the Democratic agenda. But they've also never had a 50-50 tie since he's been there, okay? So the stakes are higher. And so to answer your question, I would say I'm probably 75% confident that their commitment, which is now public, will hold for the next 2 years. But, they're going to have leverage. And if Manchin or Sinema think the Republicans are being unreasonable, could they flip? Could they switch? It's possible. Manchin knows if they get rid of it, the Green New Deal's coming, and that's terrible for West Virginia. Sinema is interesting. She's really carved out a very independent profile in the Senate. I actually give her some credit. She's a creative and thoughtful person. She does not just swallow whatever the left is shoveling. I disagree with her on probably 90% of the issues, but she's at least one that when you watch her on TV, you're not quite sure what she's going to say.
Yeah.
So, it's got to hold for 2 years. I mean, it's absolutely crucial. The filibuster goes away, we're going to lose the country. So McConnell, gaining this at least public commitment from these 2 Democratic senators is an unbelievably helpful and valuable accomplishment. It's one we cannot overlook.
Going back to reconciliation, part of the Biden stimulus package is this $15 an hour minimum wage. There has been talk that they would try to get, if they can't move anything, then maybe that would go into reconciliation. I mean, that's a long time for COVID relief that they've been telling people is coming. But let's say they do that, could they actually put a minimum wage hike into reconciliation, or would that be thrown out?
It's a good question. My instinct is they could, but reconciliation is very, very sort of in the weeds. And so I can't say with 100% certainty, but I believe it could be included, yes. But I agree with you. It's not going to be in the COVID stimulus bill. The Republicans are not going to accept it. And they're not going to accept it not because they don't want people to make more money, but because they don't want to lose 1.3 million jobs in a global pandemic. And that's what the statistics show would happen. You basically artificially increase the wages of some people, and then you eliminate the wages of others. Artificial wage increases are not a way to create value and to, the best way to increase your pay is to do a good job and gain additional skills and show that you're a responsible employee. Very few people make the minimum wage. Minimum wage is primarily young people that are just entering the workforce or unskilled workers. And so the key is, if you're in there for a year or 6 or 9 months making minimum wage and you do a good job and you show up and you're not a problem, you're not going to be making the minimum wage anymore. Now, I'll say something to you, Chad, that might surprise you. I'm actually in favor of indexing the minimum wage to inflation so that we take Congress out of this entirely. I mean, I do think the minimum wage ought to move with inflation. That we do that with other benefits. I think having it, I don't even know what it is now. What is it, $8 or something nationally, $9? Some states have gone to 15, but you can't do it artificially. There's no reason for the federal government to decide that when different states cost different amounts. You're telling me that there's a certain number makes sense in Utah and it also makes sense in New York. because the federal government says so. It just doesn't make sense. So I think the Republicans are definitely going to oppose that. But you're right. If they put it in reconciliation, that would be significant. But it's interesting though. The unions oppose it.
Really?
In addition to big business. Yep.
Well, and I mean, to me, any time doing it is a bad time to do it. But in the middle of a pandemic, when small businesses are already hurting, restaurants aren't able to have full restaurants, bars, same thing, businesses, they're not able to be at full staff. I mean, this would just be a killer for so many businesses out there.
Yeah, it would. And I misstated that. I was getting confused. The unions are opposing Medicare for All because it ends their negotiated health care plans. They're in favor of the $15 minimum wage. So sorry, I got that wrong. But you're right. It's horrendous timing. And but look, it's a push that they've been going after for a long time, and they've been doing this in states. You've seen this in Washington State, in California, I think New York. They've been pressuring companies. A lot of the big companies have been moving in that direction. I just heard Target just announced that they're moving in that direction towards the end of the year. And look, to me, it's perfectly fine if an employer wants to say, yeah, we're going to do a $15 minimum wage. And you know what? If that's a business you want to support, if that's a place you want to work to, I imagine they got a lot of applications, when they announce they're going to $15 minimum wage. But they have to make that math work. I mean, they're the ones that are providing the jobs, right? They're the ones that have to meet a payroll every 2 weeks, right? Not these members of Congress who've never met a payroll, most of them, right? So, yeah, it's going to be a big fight. There's no question. And you're right. I hadn't thought about putting minimum wage on reconciliation, but it's definitely a possibility out there to watch.
All right, Matt, tell folks how they can sign up for your newsletter and listen to your podcast.
Yeah, Chad, I know you subscribe to the Must Read Texas Morning Email. More than 20,000 people get it every morning. If you're out there and you feel like you're missing news from around the state that you need every morning, you can go to mustreadtexas.com and sign up for a free 1-week trial. It's a great product that a lot of people really benefit from. I think monthly subscriptions start at $7 a month. The podcast is called Mac on Politics. Check it out on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify.
Very nice. Matt, thank you very much. We'll visit with you next week.
Sounds good. Tough loss for the Red Raiders last night.
Yeah, it was. It was.
A close one.
Matt, thank you. Have a good one. That's Matt Mackowiak here on the Chad Hasty Show.